Hello, it is Jewel. Welcome back to my newer channel, Missing Pieces, Living with MRKH. I want to apologize, number one, for the mess in the background. I'm in the midst of moving, so don't look at that. Was gonna get ready and film this video, and I realized all of my stuff to get ready is at my new house, not my house that I'm moving out of, so I had to come to my new house. I just figured I would do my makeup while I film the video. Not really my thing, but we'll try. So if you are new here and have never seen my face, hi, my name is Jewel. I myself have MRKH. If you don't know what MRKH is, there are two types of MRKH, classified as a woman being born with an absent or underdeveloped uterus, cervix, sometimes a shortened, or absent vaginal canal. Like they said, there's two types. I've explained them briefly in my last video. I myself have type 2. Dang, I don't know how people on TikTok talk and do their makeup at the same time. So as I mentioned before, my primary goal with starting this channel is to act as a digital diary as I walk through navigating MRKH in my early 20s after being diagnosed at 17, now 22. I also want to be a voice for young women who are freshly diagnosed and don't know what to do with themselves because it's scary out here. A common theme I've been thinking about a lot for myself is dating and relationships with MRKH. Now, for those of you that don't know, there are a lot of fears that can come for people living with MRKH when it comes to dating and intimate relationships and sex. And it's been a recent theme for me in my own life, just thinking a lot about my previous relationships and the role that MRKH played in those relationships. Even my relationship now, it still plays a role to some degree. MRKH can impact all types of relationships, whether it's negative or not. Yeah, I've recently just been thinking about the way that I approached dating after finding out about my diagnosis. How it did not really have much guidance back then in terms of telling me how to approach it. But I think it's so subjective, so it's hard to tell somebody how to approach it. I have my hair clutched, everything's getting in my face. Like I said, there's a lot of invisible challenges mentally that come along with people who have MRKH when it comes to approaching things like dating, because it's scary. You don't know how some people are gonna react. You don't know what people are gonna think about you, especially your sex life and where you're at in that journey. There's so many different things. I start off by kind of talking about a few significant relationships in my life, and I don't know where my other brushes are. Use one brush for this entire makeup look today, I guess. And then I'm gonna kind of get into the things that I kind of wish I knew and some just advice. It's needed. I wish I had it. So, I considered myself to be in 2 more serious relationships prior to the one that I'm in. I use serious lightly because I was younger when I was dating these people. Counting out my first high school boyfriend because I found out I was diagnosed with MRKH after I broke up with him. After I broke up with my first high school boyfriend, diagnosed at 17. I had a boyfriend at the time. I'm praying to God nobody related to them or that knows them stumbles upon any of these videos. Keynote in this is I grew up going to church my entire life. My dad was a pastor for many years. He was also a religious person. I was in a phase of my life when him and I were dating where I was really unsure about what exactly my beliefs were in terms of Christianity and my faith. He was kind of already set in his ways and knew what he wanted. That was already an outside factor. Him and I dating for about, I want to say like, this was a long time ago now, but like 5 or 6 months once I found out I was diagnosed with MRKH. But looking back on it, I used to hold resentment towards him for the way that he handled it because he didn't really handle it at all. How was he supposed to? We were both really, really young. And that was like making us think about adult things that we didn't really need to be thinking about. The day I got diagnosed, I went and saw him and I was in a heap of tears, and I just remember feeling something in me was like, this might not be the situation you're supposed to be in after I told him I was diagnosed. Mind you, after I was diagnosed, I had a really hard time being around his sisters and his mom, not because of the way they acted at all. It literally had nothing to do with them. I just then became so resentful of all the women around me. And I remember it became this giant game of telling myself I was not enough for him. Even though he didn't necessarily do anything to make me feel that way at the time, I had fully convinced myself that because I was born this way, I was not going to fulfill whatever he wanted in the future, so therefore I was just not enough. Which is really sad, looking back on it now. He was really smart and really athletic, and I compared myself a lot to him prior to my diagnosis. So once I got my diagnosis, I fully believed that it would be easy for him to walk away from me at any given point because I was so abnormal. We eventually broke up a few months before my 18th birthday, right before I graduated grade 12. Extremely tough. Deep down in my heart, I had known we weren't going to work. I had known that there were too many things. They were telling us it wasn't gonna work, and that's okay now. Looking back on it, I'm grateful it didn't work out for a reason. I'm grateful. I was really keen on just looking over things that were externally telling us it wasn't gonna work, because I was scared of having to tell somebody else that I was born with this condition and that I did not have a vagina. So I internalized the breakup to a point where it became just self-hatred all the time, basically vowing to myself that I was just never gonna tell a man about this, ever again. I was convincing myself over and over and over, no guy's ever gonna love me, no guy's ever gonna wanna be with me, I'm not gonna be able to be the normal wife, the normal woman that a guy would want, so why would they? Those weren't even feelings that I internalized during the breakup. I remember feeling that way while him and I were dating about every girl time, and I would be like, oh, he's comparing me to her because I don't have this, which I know probably was not true. It made me treat him poorly. It made me take out so much of my anger on him and all the things that I was just upset about mentally and not willing to like accept internally. I took them out on him, drove him away, and I validate that. I was in a place of my life where I was so young and I was thinking about the future in a way that I really didn't need to be thinking about, but I didn't know what else to think about because this diagnosis just put it all right in front of my face. Eventually, time, like I say, heals all. That's exactly what happened. We broke up and I went out and I had fun. I'm gonna skip over that. So later on, this is the relationship that it quite literally changed me as a person. I'm looking at it now and seeing how far I've come since this person and I have broken up. His and I's breakup was a full throttle movement into me starting to accept and understand that I was going to be living with this diagnosis. But I put myself through hell for this person. We dated for like almost 3.5 years. I did break up for a little bit briefly. When we first started dating, like we were like seeing each other. I remember I told him, like, right now I'm not in a phase of my life where I'm capable to have sex. Explain why. Give him the rundown. I was 18, he was 19. I don't remember. It was very, very reassuring. He was like, I really like you. This is not gonna bother me. I remember the first question being, how long am I gonna have to wait? Or something along the lines. And I'm almost praying to God he doesn't find this video. But immediately to the point of, when will we be able to though? I remember feeling like, you know, like, don't be mad at him for asking that. Like, that's normal. Like, you have to expect this, Jewel. I went along with it and we started dating. First year of our relationship was okay. I was very much so always thinking about my diagnosis. I was very mentally unstable at this time for a lot of other reasons, but very, very mentally unstable when him and I were dating this first year. Though he would say he made the efforts, he had never asked me about my MRKH diagnosis on his own time. He never asked if I was doing okay. He never asked if I was thinking about it. He just simply never did that, ever. Yes, it's disappointing, but we were a little bit younger, so I give him the grace. Him and I broke up. We get back together. Things are going, I thought, it was somewhat okay until I find out, we've been dating at this point 2 years now in total, that he had been cheated on me with a coworker. Considering he had been so reassuring to me for so long, I was completely taken aback, distraught, no idea what to do with myself. Actually, simply, like, in that moment was suicidal. The second I found out, I threw up. Like, I was distraught. Me, going back to that same old, nobody else is gonna love you. You're already here. He's accepted you. You have to stay. I stayed. And the me before him would have never let that happen to me. I had put 2 years of my time into building something with him and convincing me that the setbacks weren't setbacks, for him to go and do the lowest of low things that a human could do. This sent me into like the most downward spiral of my life. I remember not telling my parents specifically. I was so unwell. I lost so much weight. I was so sad. I was about hurting myself every single day, and I was hurting myself all the time. I then internalized the cheating as, it's because this thing is wrong with me. I'm not good enough. Even though I warned him, it's just never enough, and I should have known that it wouldn't be enough. It wouldn't have been enough. I kept telling myself, you should have known, you're so stupid. Someone promises you their loyalty, every day continues to tell you that this thing you have is not an issue to them, you're gonna believe them eventually. For it to turn around and just not be what I thought it was. As I chose to stay with him, I didn't realize it, so we broke up. But choosing to stay with him as a means of preserving the image, not feeling embarrassed, pretending that everything was okay. So I defended him. Literally the most toxic coping mechanism ever. I was cool with hurting myself to be enough for him. Okay with rotting and being hurt by him. I couldn't leave him. I couldn't. I genuinely thought nobody else was gonna love me. Almost 21 when this happened, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's no more faith for me. Like nobody else is gonna be patient enough. I thought that was it. I stayed with him for 9 more months. Some of the hardest months of my life. Such a hard time eating. I was coping with so many drugs and different types of alcohol people didn't know about. Throwing myself away to be enough for him. The cheating really was the seal for me in believing that I was unlovable. Hence why I stayed. I feel like this is common for a lot of people that don't have MRKH. You stay when they love somebody so much. What could be different for people with MRKH is that they already feel abnormal, broken, and different at times, not all the time. And anybody in this world wants is to be loved. So when somebody throws something back at you that's just not love, it's easy to convince yourself that it's due to something you can't control, and that's just not the truth. Once I broke up with that individual, I completely forced myself to sit and allow myself to feel every emotion that came with MRKH because I just refused. God, I don't want to cry. I'm an ugly crier. But I genuinely pushed those feelings away to just be in the relationship. Anything that hurt me, anything that made me question myself, I just pushed all away. I let myself feel all of it once I was single. The relationship genuinely changed me as a person. Walked out of it like not the same person I was going into it at all. The way I looked at relationships and men and everything changed after him. Being able to sit in that allowed me the space to accept my diagnosis. It's not to say I fully accept my diagnosis to this day, but I allowed myself to come to terms with the fact that this is what I was going to live with. I allowed myself to set standards for myself. I would date somebody who loves me completely. Somebody who wants to know things that hurt me. I deserve somebody who wants to know every part of me. I got lucky enough that by sitting and being alone, it came to me. That ended up finding me. Quick location change to gather myself. And when I talk about the challenges that come with relationships, it's not even just hard parts, the toxicity in negative relationships that hurts. It hurts just as bad, sometimes worse, when you're in a beautiful relationship. Being in the relationship I'm in now, which is the one that I want to be in for the rest of my life, I am constantly fighting every day to just not feel like I'm letting him down or taking a piece of his life that he wanted. A lot of us with MRKH do that. Well, every relationship I was in had other factors that pushed that were not just my MRKH to us breaking up. I was willing to accept betrayal because I felt like my body betrayed me. I wish I could go back and change all of that because it's just not fucking true. I can collect myself now and get back to the whole point of the video. Number one, it is so important to just remember that none of us are broken because of a couple less parts than regular people. With the dating thing comes the concept of telling people and telling partners. And I was always somebody who absolutely waited till the last minute with a relationship. A lot of men, because I've been in things outside of the relationships I touched on, I just touched on my long-term relationships. A lot of men would get mad at me and be like, you got me all the way here to tell me that, like you played me. That's not the truth. I was just terrified that you would think I'm a freak. There was some rejection in that regard, and I had to choose how I was gonna handle that. The person that wants you will look over every little thing just to be in your presence. You can choose to tell people whenever you want. My parents were always so encouraging at the beginning and saying, don't tell people right away. It is your story and it's very vulnerable, personal, intimate information. So with all that being said, when approaching relationships and intimate relationships or sexual relationships, choose people who choose you. Set boundaries ahead of time for yourself. Move at your own pace. The boundary of moving at your own pace is the beautiful part about having MRKH, is it's literally all on your own time. By doing so and respecting the boundaries that you put in place for yourself, you also gain a new level of confidence and self-respect. When I broke up with my long-term boyfriend of 3 years, I developed this whole other level of respect for myself that I've never had. I simply walked out of his house that day and said, I will never, ever let this happen to me again.
I could go on about this for forever, so if anybody wants part 2, please let me know. But with that, I think it's really important for me to tell anybody who's freshly diagnosed, don't be scared. Somebody's gonna choose you. 9 out of 10 times, meeting them at 16 or 17, they're not gonna understand. Somebody before the age of 20, 21, they're not gonna understand. You're young and you're approaching this, be gracious with the other young people, because a diagnosis like MRKH makes people think about adult concepts that don't always need to be consuming young people's minds and time. Wish I didn't put so much of that time and energy into thinking about marriage and pregnancy and my relationships when I was in high school. You're just supposed to be figuring yourself and each other out and having fun. And it's okay to not be in a relationship too. A lot of women with MRKH also don't desire a relationship. And that's a beautiful thing. They don't desire motherhood, they don't desire those things, and that's okay too. All stories matter, but it still all affects and impacts us to some extent. If you have MRKH, please know that you are not alone. This space that I am starting to create is for you. It's for me. You're safe and accepted here. Ugh, I could go on for forever about this, but for now I'm gonna leave that at that. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I'm sorry this was kind of emotional. It's just been something that's really been weighing on me lately. If you want to read a bit more of an in-depth and vulnerable walk through my journey with MRKH, you can look up my blog and subscribe to my blog. It's at missingpieces.ca. It will be down below. You can follow me on Instagram, jwart.creativestudio. TikTok is the same handle. If you'd like to learn more, or you have MRKH, or know somebody with MRKH and just want to be a part of the journey, please subscribe. So happy to have you here. So, thank you.